Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Spy Kids 4, All the Time in the World, starring Jessica Alba, Joel McHale, Rowan Blanchard, Mason Cook, Jeremy Piven, Alexa Vega, and Daryl Sabara, directed by Robert Rodriguez. Now, before I get into this movie, I haven't seen this movie since theaters. I did see it in theaters, but it's been about a decade since I've seen this movie, and now I've caught up to it twice. And let's see how this goes, because I am a little nervous about this one after the previous three. A pregnant Marissa Wilson, played by Jessica Alba, is a spy agent and is on her last mission to stop a bad guy named TikTok, played by Jeremy Piven. And as she chases after him, the baby is about to come out, and she goes after TikTok and fights off his goons. And the OSS captures TikTok thanks to Danger Demo, also played by Jeremy Piven, and she goes to the hospital while she doesn't want her family to know she was a spy, and that's a terrible idea to fight while pregnant. And gets to her husband, Wilbur, played by Joel McHale, as he comes up with a TV show called Spy Hunter, and his kids Rebecca, played by Rowan Blanchard, and Cecil, played by Mason Cook, and baby number 3, and the effects in this movie are horrible effects. Just horrible. 1 year later, Marissa and Rebecca don't get along that well, as Rebecca hates Marissa, and the time goes by quickly, and dinner time passes, and Rebecca is a prank maker. For example, the blue cheese prank, where she dumps blue cheese on Marissa, and she puts blueberry in his teeth, and by his, I'm talking about the father, and baby powder in the hairdryer on the father, when it was meant for Marissa. And after they talk with each other about how she admired her pranks, and gives her her necklace and says to Rebecca she's special until the blue cheese prank comes in. And Cecil has hearing aids he turns off when he doesn't want to hear Rebecca hating on Marissa, and he tells her to apologize to her. And this movie does a horrible job at making me care for the characters, as I don't like them whatsoever. The timekeeper is on the TV, and Marissa sees TikTok has escaped, and the writing in this is terrible, as Danger needs Marissa to come into the OSS despite she's retired, and she asks Rebecca to give back her necklace for a second for unexplained reasons, and asks the robot dog Argonaut, voiced by Ricky Gervais, to watch the kids, and TikTok's minions comes into the house and goes after the necklace, and Rebecca thinks Marissa is getting her back, and they go in the panic room until Marissa says she's a spy, and the dog talks, and this is already turning into a horrible movie. They start flying in a thing that looks like a plane and flies them to the OSS while Cecil vomits a few times, and Argonaut opens the window, and Rebecca gives the idea of throwing his puke at the bad guys, and they fight like cats and dogs, which is horrible writing, by the way. Rebecca and Cecil arrive at the OSS and meets Carmen Cortez, returned by Alexa Vega, who happens to be a family member of Marissa, and she tours them around the OSS, and they grab a couple of gadgets and ends the tour to a room with snacks. And why am I watching this as I fear for the new movie, as I don't like the first 3 movies, and as I don't like this one either? TikTok encounters Marissa and the baby, and the one-liners about time is so bad in this movie, as this is something that 80s action stars as well as James Bond does, as the one-liners are the worst in the movie. Rebecca and Cecil escape with Argonaut, while with oil slick, poop bombs, and silent but lethal farting, and this is horrible. Why would you add that into your movie? They escape the OSS to get the time clock place, and Marissa and Carmen go to where they're at, and they get in Timekeeper's place, and gets in the area where the Timekeeper is at, and I just don't care anymore at this point. I'm checked out of this movie. TikTok grabs Rebecca and Cecil and gets to the Timekeeper, and Marissa and Carmen rescue them as they fight off the bad guys, while Wilbur gets in from the dumpster, as he and his cameraman get in the giant clock and from the dumpster, and gets some shots for his reality TV show. And these effects look so bad. And time flies when you're having fun. Just ugh. The worst one-liner as they have the necklace while Wilbur shows the video of Marissa and the kids fighting with spies, and Wilbur finds out Marissa is a spy and gets fired. And Marissa has a conversation with Wilbur, and time just keeps going faster and faster, and the OSS has a meeting and they bring back Junie, returned by Daryl Sabara, as she hates Junie for abandoning her for 7 years, while Rebecca and Cecil get in time out by Danger as they notice he wears the extra 3 watches and his name is scattered to Armageddon, and they learn he's the timekeeper and try to warn Marissa. And this movie is probably the worst, as there is one more to go after the next segment. Danger exposes himself as Danger in front of Marissa, Carmen, and Junie and freezes everyone except for Junie, as he didn't freeze thanks to Carmen throwing his card in the garbage, which is what this movie is, as it is garbage. Junie calls Rebecca and Cecil an Argonaut escape with the baby, and Junie unfreezes Carmen and Marissa and get into a sinking clock with Cecil beats the bad guys, and his gadget runs low on batteries, and he realizes don't rely on your gadgets, and they captured TikTok, and I just don't care anymore. Argonaut messages Wilbur that he needs to save the kids, while TikTok won't give back Cecil's hearing aids, and Danger tells him to give it back, and Danger monologues about how he was the boy frozen in time, while his father tried to get him out of there, and eventually his father grows old and dies while Danger was a boy, and he wants more time with him, and he gave him everything, and he goes back in time and comes back an old man and learns Cecil is right about one thing. There's no going back to Marissa, as Marissa, Carmen, and Junie come in, and Danger realizes it the hard way. And TikTok goes after Rebecca and Cecil, and he stops by letting go of the watch, like I brought up a second ago. Things won't change, and once again, Danger is an old man and says they were right about not going back and stops the time from moving and unfreezes everyone. And Wilbur arrests TikTok and throws one lucky punch, and Wilbur, Marissa, Rebecca, and Cecil become a family with the baby, as Carmen and Junie become the leader of the Spy Kids recruitment, and Rebecca and Cecil activate the Spy Kids program, and this climax is just the worst, as I'm dreading the new movie to death. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 1.7 out of 10. The characters are terrible in this movie, as they're just as worse as the first 3 movies, and the effects look horrible. Also, like in the first 3 movies, I hope the new movie isn't as horrible as I fear for it, as I don't like the first 3 movies, as well as this movie. The one-liners in the movie is the worst, as is the writing, as this is not an 80s action movie, or as well as a James Bond movie, as the action scenes are horrible. And seriously, Ricky Gervais as the dog, because ew, I'm not a fan of Ricky Gervais. I checked out the first 45 of the movie, about 45 minutes into the movie, as this movie is complete garbage. And this is one of the worst movies I've seen in the series, but it might not be the worst ever made. We'll see how that goes when the new movie comes. But in the meantime, this is a strong non-recommendation for this movie. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Spy Kids Armageddon. And until then, real spies, only smaller.